The evening of October 27th, 2019, which feels like a lifetime ago, is when I got the call that would change my world forever. I had just eaten my favorite meal, Swiss steak, from my dad. Let's just say the meal didn't stay down once I got the call that there was viable lungs that matched me. I remember feeling that this is the moment that I've prepared my whole life for. It's like a marathon that you train for, and it was finally here. I was told not to rush, so I didn't. My dad was taking me back home to my mom's when we stopped at my Aunt Karen's, and she had given me a St. Christopher coin that read, "Protect us wherever we may roam and guide us always safely home." I remember feeling like that was very special, and I had to hold back all of the might that was in me not to cry. So I got home and I showered, and I remember sitting at the end of my bed and looking up and staring at the Jeremiah 29:11 scripture that was above my bed, which read, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope in a future." And I took a deep breath in and breathed it out and knew that this was the time and this was the moment that I've been waiting for, and I was ready. I truly believed that I was being led by God because this was an indescribable out-of-body experience. I knew that when I got to the hospital, my friends were going to be in the waiting room. I remember what it felt like being wheeled in there in a wheelchair and seeing my friends for the first time in a long time and hugging them and kind of, in a way, saying goodbye to them, which was really, really, really difficult. I remember feeling bad because I didn't have that much emotion, and it's not that I wasn't sad or that I didn't feel, it's really, that's why I feel like it's an indescribable situation. I was numb to what was going on, and it was hard to know that I may not see these people again, and that is I waited for them to bring back the lungs for hours. So my friends stayed in the waiting room for a very long time. I remember it was like they all had to go to school the next day. Some had exams, some had softball, and it was so special that they were there and that they didn't, they set their schedules aside and they sacrificed a lot to be there for me. So I really appreciate you guys more than I think you know. I started this video thinking, I wrote down this whole situation, like a bunch of notes, and for the most part I'm going off of it, but I kind of branched off a little bit because I have a lot of like my own emotion that goes into it too, and new things that I'm thinking of as I'm reading this. Finally, my friends had left. My sisters live in Tennessee, so as soon as I got the call, they got in their car. They already had a bag packed, and they got in their car and they raced, as safely as possible, the 8-hour car ride to me. And so during those hours, I was laughing. I had a smile on my face. I was cracking jokes. Okay, we're just waiting on the lungs. I also remember a musical therapist that came in, and I wanted to use the last moments of my original lungs to sing The Climb, and I did, with not a lot of air, very breathless. I can't really describe the feeling of what it felt like for the nurses to come in and say, it's time, and you have to go into surgery now. I truly know this with everything, that God was guiding me, and God took the words out of my mouth when I asked my sister Kimberly to pray over me, because I don't feel like that was me speaking. Like I said, I was numb. I didn't really feel much emotion, and so it was like God took the words out of my mouth, and so she did. And then I was being wheeled down and smiling, and just I put my brave face on and knew that this was time, and there's no turning back. Even though it's weird, I did have like a split second where I wanted to almost be like, no, I don't want to do this, but I didn't, and I didn't because I definitely wanted to do this, because the alternative was not great. No matter how prepared that you think that you are for something like this, you're never prepared to watch the elevator doors close on your family and hoping and praying that you see them again. Any worry that I had wasn't for myself. I knew that I was made for this and that I would be okay. I was worried about my family having to sit in a waiting room for 10 hours praying that their daughter and their sister makes it out. So meanwhile, I was back in the operating room. I was wheeled in, and the nurses and the doctors and everyone, the anesthesiologists and everybody, were devising a plan of how to get me onto the operating table because I was in the bed that was in the ICU. And I looked at them and I said, I can get off the bed and hop on. And I sat down on the operating table and I looked at them and I was just thinking like, what? And they were like, Are you sure you need a transplant? I've always been an anomaly. I went so many years under 30% lung function and cheered and did halftime dances at 25% lung function and then had 19% lung function. But nobody could see I was struggling. I never wanted to let CF define me or let it run my life, because it's not who I was. It's a part of me. It's not who I am. It's who I always viewed it. Or maybe I was just in denial for a really long time. It wasn't until my disease became visible that I think a lot of people, like in my personal life, knew how bad my cystic fibrosis actually was. My body fought a good fight for a long time to keep my original God-given lungs for as long as they could, until they just couldn't anymore. These past 2 years specifically have really shown me how much my body was struggling for air, energy, strength, nutrients, all of that, and I knew that it was time. It didn't fully hit me how severe my illness was until I had met my new doctor at Cleveland Clinic, and the first time meeting me, he said, "Do you know how sick you are?" Being like an anomaly like I was, I felt invincible and like I don't need lungs, until I had to be real with myself. Another moment that hit me really hard was signing the advanced directory papers with my mom when I was in the hospital over the summer before transplant. Most 20-year-olds' biggest worry is what sorority they're gonna go into or what fraternity, boy drama, not worrying that any moment they could die. I knew that I was going into a very severe, heavy, invasive, a lot of risk surgery, but I also knew that I had a lot of angels watching over me. Pop-up, grandma, my Uncle Byron, and my Uncle Larry, and many others that have passed away. 10 hours of what I can only imagine was complete agony for my parents and for my sisters. They could finally see me. I couldn't talk or anything because I was still intubated, but I was awake. It's a very uncomfortable situation to be in because you want to talk and you want to breathe on your own. And I knew that I could, but they can't excavate you until they know that your new lungs are working properly. Did one cough, maybe a couple coughs, and then I said my name. So I spent a few days in the ICU, and it was a day before I was able to leave. I was going to stay in there for about 4 days, and then I could leave down to the step-down unit, which is where you go into the hospital room, a more private hospital room. It's so much more conducive to recover in. And I was, looking forward to that. It was like, I finally, this is going good. This is a speedy recovery. First, I just want to say that the ICU, I'm thankful for all my nurses in there and everybody who made sure I was okay and everything like that. It is a scary place to be. All the beeping, and there's no privacy. It's like, privacy, who is she? When we're in there. So yeah, I was getting ready to go down to the step-down unit. I was so excited. I had a shunt in my neck for the heart catheter that they placed during surgery, and they were taking blood, and this is a little TMI, but I was going to the bathroom. I really don't know why they were taking my blood on the commode. I'm not really sure. I pressed on my vagus vein and I had passed out, and it was really quick. I remember passing out, and then just all of a sudden I was sitting on a bed again, and I was like, that was weird. But then I kind of opened my eyes to everything being pixely, is how I described it. I thought it'll go away. It's just I fell and I'm just a little dizzy. It's like almost, I thought maybe it's just stars. My blood pressure maybe dropped really low when I fell, and that's just what happened. I didn't feel well. I threw up. So the first thought, I think, from everybody was I got a concussion from falling, but I didn't hit my head. And then all of a sudden I could not see at all, and I was fully blind to the point where the doctors were shining their flashlight into my eye, but I was not aware of it at all. I had no awareness at all. I thought it was July. I kept saying it was July for some reason. I didn't know the President of the United States. I thought it was 1999, but it was weird because I knew that it wasn't, and I was frustrated in my mind because I knew that it wasn't 1999. I eventually said 2019, but it took me a while, and that's when they knew something was way more wrong than just a casual fall. So I was taken down to MRI, but I was again blind, so that was really hard and really harsh because I couldn't see, plus was being taken down on a bed, so you get nauseous and you can't see, and it's so weird. Thankfully, I think what was like my saving grace through all of that was that I was on very heavy medication. So when I look back and people are like, how did you handle that? I really don't know, because I don't feel like I was myself. I remember at one point I woke up in the middle of the night one night and I was fighting my nurse. And I remember I immediately apologized. I was trying to yank myself out of bed. I was fully trying to get out of bed to go to the bathroom. And I woke up to me doing that and being like, I'm so sorry. Like, I don't know why I did that. And you do crazy things, you see crazy things, and it's a very weird experience.
That's country, right? Yeah.
So after being confused and blind for nearly 2 days, almost practically 2 days, they found out from the MRI that my brain was swelling on the optic nerve due to the anti-rejection meds that I was taking, mixed with another med that I had to be taking as well. All that medicine mixed in my system caused that reaction and caused me to completely lose my sight. So it finally returned Halloween night. And I have never been, more relieved in my life to see people. You take for granted, and so did I, eyesight, hearing, all of that because you never think that you will lose it, especially like going into a lung transplant. I never anticipated that something would go wrong with my eyes. It's weird to say that I know what it is like to be blind. I never thought I would ever experience that or come back from that. They told me that I would lose my appetite and I would not be eating. I would have to do liquid diet, for a while. And then that just wasn't the case for me at all. Actually,
This kid's something else. Yeah. She hardly even had any pain meds, so I'm like, really?
So it's
tough
great
cookie,
that
man.
you have an appetite and can swallow well and such,
Some people have a lot harder time, huh?
Sure, it just depends how it affects you. It just depends. Yeah.
Chunking the whole
Or,
day.
they'll have to have the.
I was eating in the ICU, and then I've been eating ever since. And I've never used my feeding tube since the hospital. And I have gained over 30 pounds. I was 78 before surgery, so that was needed. And I love food. I got a PICC line, and I remember I was so scared to get this PICC line in, and I've had so many PICC lines in my life. I remember I paused and I looked at my mom and said, "Mom, why am I nervous about a little PICC line? I just got done having a double lung transplant, really." So now I was able to go down to the step-down unit, and I was so excited because you have way more privacy. You just feel like more sound and more secure, and the food is better. Let me tell you, the food is better. So a lot of people ask me, what was it like to take your first full breath? So it's not as pleasant as you would think. It's not like a pleasant breath in. I had chest tubes in for 2 weeks, and then even longer, I went home with 2 or 3 of them. And so that was really uncomfortable for a very long time to get used to them, because there are 6 huge chest tubes, and then getting those out was a little uncomfortable. Well, very uncomfortable actually, but very relieving at the same time. So it was like, you just do it.
All right, on the count of 3, take a deep breath and hold it. 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
And just hold that puppy while I see.
Learning, I had to completely retrain my brain and my mind, and you have to, it's kind of like learning how to walk again, learning how to speak, like when you're a toddler, learning how to walk, because I didn't know what it was like to breathe like a normal average person. I had to retrain myself of everything that I ever knew. I had my oxygen in for about, up until like 6, 7, maybe a week before I was gonna go home. So the first week in the step down, I had my oxygen on because it was kind of like a safety net, and I didn't know. I got used to it. Your body depends on it, and I was so scared. And like half the journey and half the battle is your mind. And it wasn't until the musical therapist came in again, and I actually ended up singing. So I took out my oxygen, and I ended up singing for an hour, a whole bunch of different songs. Definitely like singing, it was so bad, and I'm gonna put in a clip here, but I even surprised myself. I felt like I was in second grade for a second. I remember I was singing for an hour without oxygen on, and my therapist told me to look up at my O2. My oxygen was at 99, 100%, and I was even singing, and from that moment on, I never had my oxygen on again. I never depended on that tank ever again, and it was the best feeling ever. You don't just get to sit and relax and sit in a bed and eat food and watch movies for those 2 weeks. They're very adamant at getting you up, walking at least twice a day, because otherwise your lungs could fail. You need to train your lungs again and make sure that they're healthy before you leave and you kind of take on your new life on your own at home. And so I walked almost every day, doing laps and all of that around the hospital. And then 2 weeks later, I was walking out of those doors with so much gratitude and the same fighter spirit that I always had. You don't realize how much weight you've been carrying until it's lifted off your shoulders. Hands down, best feeling in the world. To know that you can breathe. Literally. Every step I'm taking, every move I make feels lost in no direction. My faith is shaking. I got to keep trying. Gotta keep fighting. Getting down to the step unit, I was very overwhelmed with emotion. I remember I was crying at everything, because everything hits you at once. Because like I said before, I was very numb and just emotionless, because you're just in fight or flight mode beforehand, and you don't have time to get emotions, and it just happened so fast, which I'm so thankful for, because it felt as if it was the fastest, most slowest experience ever. Just kind of like, whew, that was a lot. That was so heavy, and I cannot believe that I did it. Over the course of this year, I've seen my friends. I've went into stores without oxygen. I've went into public without feeling like people were staring at me. Was riding my bike. I even ran a little bit the other day, which is crazy. I went on walks, I sang, I danced. I have such a stronger voice now. Everything is alright now, 'cause the sky is finally open. The rain and wind stopped blowing, but you're stuck out in the same old storm again. Darling, I'm just trying to tell you that there's always been a rainbow hanging over your head. And I am dancing again, which it's like all the passions that I've had that CF stole from me for a really long time, I stole them back, and CF ain't ever getting it again. If you know me personally, you know that I am so full of life, and I love life, and I live really positive and happy, and I feel like all of that was sucked out of me for a long time, especially these past 2 years. But I always smiled and kept going, because I had faith that I would make it to the other side, and that I always told myself, this will be a memory one day. And now, a year later, it is, and I'm here. I know that I've always had an appreciation for life and for the little things, but I really have a newfound appreciation for life and just living every day like it's your last. This life that I'm living now, and ever since transplant, feels like a dream, that I used to have to go to sleep to experience. And now it's a reality. As much of a draining, exhausting, overwhelmingly experience and journey this has been, every second of it was worth it because I'm here and I'm living again and I'm genuinely happy. I had 19% lung function pre-transplant, and my last appointment I had 103. 103%. 12 days I waited on a transplant list, which is so short compared to other people's wait times, and I'm so blessed that that happened. And I know that God's timing is perfect because my doctors have said that they don't think that I would be here if I had to wait any longer. I lived a very hard life these past 2 years, and my donor saved me from that. And there's no amount of thank yous that I could have. Or my doctors, or the nurses, the surgeons, or my family, my friends, all my people that have supported me, because it's so true, like your support system is what gets you through. A lot of people ask me, how did you do it? And I always respond, if it was you, you would do it too. If there was no other choice, you would do it too. So in the words of my girl, Miley Cyrus, life's a climb, but the view is great. Here's to breathing easy and to many more years.